right, so good morning to everybody. Happy Motivation Monday to everyone in attendance today. Well, it's indeed the beginning of a new week, and we can definitely look behind us and see that July is already halfway through. It's amazing to think of already. I personally can't believe how fast it's gone this year already so far. It's been an amazing sales month so far. We're definitely still seeing those steady numbers that are very, very common during these summer months. So again, welcome to Motivation Monday, everybody. If this is your first time in attendance, over the next 15 to 30 minutes, this medium is more or less meant to, start your week off by inspiring, igniting, and impressing upon you that with a new week are, that's right, new possibilities, and those possibilities lead to new sales. This type of forward-thinking thought behavior, which it is indeed a behavior, it can definitely take practice. I know it's taken a lot of practice for myself throughout the last years. It really takes time to kind of dial this in and master. If you don't already utilize this behavioral thought process, I really highly suggest implementing it into your daily rituals of beginning the day and the week. Actively being aware that you're letting the prior day, the week, the month go, and you're moving on. Obviously there's running events that you have to keep track of, and your accountability of those tasks is super critical. But this of course is where your excellent time management skills come in and come into play. Being really able to compartmentalize and move forward it's a new thing for some people, and letting go of previous days or week stressors, it can definitely be hard. But just to allow those prior thoughts and stressors to melt away, it really helps to open yourself up to a clear, just a purposefully directed new day and a new week. As I mentioned earlier, Motivation Mondays are really meant to inspire, ignite you, and impress upon you for the upcoming week. And I think today's quote really captures the essence of what we're trying to accomplish here each Monday, which, your future is created by what you do today, not by tomorrow. So as you're well aware, we are on Motivation Monday, and as we get moving throughout the week here, happy Motivation Monday to everybody. Let's go ahead and get this started. So those of you that are new, this slide really kind of shows you an overview of the common format that we follow each Monday. We're going to start off with a brief review of last week's tip of the week, and then move on to this week's new tip. It could be a retention idea, maybe some important dates, or maybe some current events in the news, and any changes resulting from that. And then we'll move into some AHCP sales trends, and then we'll take a look at those sales leaders for the week, for the prior week rather, and we'll end with a sales technique that we really hope, that I really hope that you'll take advantage of and implement, not really only into your daily sales goals, but really utilize for the future as another tool to save in the old memory warehouse of techniques. The technique that we're going to be covering today is going to be how to understand and know the client that you're selling to. If you're somewhat of a regular to these sessions, you'll probably notice that your normal host, the super awesome Dan Giancola, is not with us today. Given how much Dan travels and with his training schedule being what it is, I have been asked and tasked with the outstanding opportunity to join everybody in the rotation of every Monday's presentations. Dan's still going to continue to present on some Mondays, but I'm stepping in here to take a bit of his workload off his shoulders. And personally, I think this is a great opportunity for me to not only share some positive tips with you all each week, but to really inspire and ignite everybody with a positive message that everybody can be, that y'all can utilize to enhance your sales numbers. And but each tip can really be also used to better your personal self as well. Each message has the ability to be applied into a daily lifestyle ritual. So with all that said, I'm going to quickly run through a recap of Dan's last week's tip of the week, and then go through into this week's tip. And as a little bit of a welcome for everyone, I'm going to be introducing myself here for that tip of the week. So last week's tip of the week, a bit of a recap here, is they went over the total value benefits of America. The General Agent Center works with Value Benefits of America, VBA, and the National Employers Association. It really helps to provide great benefits and fully insured products through most of the major insurance companies that they might otherwise not be able to purchase really for such low group rates. They're a very low AME deductible on it. As you can see there, maximum benefit amounts of 25, 5, 75, and 10. Really no lab tests or doctor's exams are required to apply for the plans. They have, I believe it was 24 accident plans, as well as an MD hotline with 24/7 consultations and routine medical needs. Let's see. So there I am, my wonderful mug. I want to welcome everybody and say hello to everyone. My name is Robert Freeman. I've been brought into the National General family as a training specialist, and will be mainly, at least to begin with, be training all of our 1099 agents on all things Medicare related, Medicare 101, 201, and some really advanced topics as well. Of course, as today is showing, I'm going to have a lot of other duties as assigned, with Motivation Mondays being one of them. I'm really super excited to be doing these, because I really enjoy sharing my personal knowledge that I've used over the years with folks. And even if in the slightest amount you're able to enhance your skill set in any way, that's actually what really motivates me. You know, in the training field, I have the unique personal pleasure of seeing the full life cycle of a lot of employees. You know, generally from onboarding in a frontline position usually, and watch their growth up through into leadership positions, or, you know, whatever direction that career takes them with the organization. But this is what really gets me up every day. It's not really the accolades or the certificates. It's you folks. Well, you know, with of course the exception of the occasional bonus or salary increase. That's always a wonderful thing, never a bad thing. So I personally have 20 plus years of customer service and sales training experience as within the training fields and the QA departments. I originally, a long time ago, just to not share my age, but started in the Marine Corps way back, let's just say over 20 years ago, as a Marine Corps communications specialist, which I was discharged medically after breaking my foot a couple times. You know, I've worked in the sales and service industry for many of the large major players, you know, such as Yahoo, Merrill Lynch, Comcast, Pacific Power, and of course now the wonderful National General family. I'm married. I have a 10-year-old son, and I'm a Chicago native. For anybody that's some of our Chicago agents out there, I've been in Portland now for a little over 20 years. So I think it's this year, to be honest, I met my halfway point. So 20% or 50% Portland, 50% Illinois, and you know, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I love Portland to death. It is an amazing place to live. Just the amount of beauty and nature that's out here is outstanding. I wouldn't give it up for the world. You know, on the flip side though, Chicago is an amazing place, and it's always going to be my home, and my family and friends and everyone else that I know are still out there. So it's kind of a my original home, with Portland being my secondary home, of course. You know, I am a prior National General employee through VelaPoint, one of the brokerages out here in Oregon. I was out here from 2014 to 2016 within the quality assurance team. I actually specialized within Medicare compliance and auditing, doing things through Cambia, Health Compare, a lot of other organizations as well. I've been through 3 wonderful open enrollments, so I'm pretty familiar with the process, and very eager to get rolling with this year as well too. Just a little bit of an extra thing about me here on the side. I work for the Washington County search and rescue teams out here as a first responder. I do search and rescue through terrorism events, natural disasters, anything that is related where there needs to be a responder that happens for that initial triaging, that initial incident. I'm going to be there helping direct everybody, and hopefully trying to keep things as calm and organized as possible. I do have some outside hobbies as well, through doing some sound engineering. Some individuals here as well, I'm going to try and join their disc golf league and try and get to be a little bit more adept at that. And I thoroughly enjoy traveling. My last few positions have had me traveling all throughout the United States, and I think this is a really good opportunity for me here as well to do that and continue that trend. So some of the HCP trends that we're going to go through here from that we're seeing as far as the statistics are concerned. Our short-term medical, we've had an increase in it, leading with Golden Rule, and our limited med as well, an increase with VBA leading the way. Our accident, look at that, it's an increase, leading with golden rule again, as well as critical illness increasing and dental increasing. So what is that? We've got 5 increases through our trends here. That is amazing, outstanding. I will clap in this wonderful room here, but it's just really good to see this with golden rule there for accident and CBL, Colorado Bankers for the critical illness, and golden rule again for dental. That's amazing stuff. It's really good to see. So our sales shout outs for the week for short-term medical and our limited benefit area, please bear with me while I get to know everybody's names for the weeks, but I promise I'm definitely going to get to know everyone as the weeks and the months and hopefully the years go on. Now for short term this week, we have a big shakeup for gold. We've got Richard Stillwell taking first place. Outstanding, Richard. Taking over that top spot. Amazing. Richard came out of nowhere and is just killing it in first place this week. Great job. Taking silver and holding strong is Katya. Way to go, Katya. And we have a brand new name in third, which is taking browns this week. We've got Susan. Great job to you 3, and amazing work to everyone this week as well. Everyone deserves a round of applause, so give yourself a real good hand on that. With our limited benefit, we have Katya again taking gold. Amazing job, Katya. This is a continued trend that we've been having multiple weeks in a row now, so just keep it rocking. We have Robert moving up into second place from third last week. He's moving up into silver, taking silver place. Way to go, Robert. And Dramo, we have a third place for the week. We have someone brand new. We have Elaine taking bronze for the week. Great job to you 3, Katya, Robert, and Elaine. I personally wish I could show a few more names, maybe like the top 10 producers, but I'm working on it. May see some slight changes as the weeks go on, and I do a little more tweaking to the leaderboard ways that's presented. But in the meantime, great work to everybody, including our top 3 here. So this week's sales technique is going to be discussing knowing and understanding your audience. This is a really important topic for me. I really personally think that the key to understanding the way that you present your sales technique, the way that you present your sale, and the way that you eventually do your full pitch is really important to understand the audience. Really understanding an older audience versus a younger audience, which really more or less just has to do with preparation and doing your homework. Obviously knowing more about your audience and about your sales and about your client is great. Knowing it sooner, of course, is better. You really want to try and find out all that you can about your clients before you start working on any sort of a sales pitch. Even any good journalist, will really understand the audience of a publication before he writes an article, for example. And the same goes for sales. It really just depends upon who you're going to be selling to. Do you know that demographic information? How big is everything once it's going to be laid out? As much as you know in advance is really going to help you create a knockout sale, and then really at that point it's going to be doing the work for you, and it's going to make your job easier, 10 times easier in the end. By building personal relationships and showing that you've done your research are really ways to get personal and really dig down with your sales client. If you can spend some time meeting and greeting with them, a little bit, as far as, personally one-on-one or even through the phone, that's really a good way to understand that. Something that I've always been very interested in is Milton Berle's technique of really getting to know his audience. He's if you're not aware, I'm sure you probably are, but he's a really classic one-liner comedian. He used to really open up his public appearances with a handful of just really random, diverse material. He would joke one side of the spectrum to the other side of the spectrum, but within those first few minutes of a routine, he was testing the waters, and he was really just getting to know his audience. He might have a bomb joke, he might have one that really hits, but by the time he was done with it, he really understood exactly who he was speaking with in his audience. For you as sales agents, it's the same thing. Really just delivering a series of probing questions can be really a great way to get that done and really understand who you're speaking with. It really also just kind of gives you the insight that you need to deliver a pitch perfect sales pitch every single time. You really also want to understand and know what they know. You, of course, are an expert on your subject, on your field, on the product that you're selling at the time. But really, how much does your client know? It's really a crucial question that can make or break a sales pitch. Really, no matter how slick and together you can really be, if you talk over your client's head, or if you're speaking with a group and you talk over the audience's head, they're going to be baffled, but they're not going to be enthralled, and they're not really going to catch on with what's going on. On the other hand, if you're speaking with somebody that's really up to speed and knows their material, they may find that your sales pitch might just be less than engaging. Really knowing and understanding how much they know about the subject can make or break what's going on as well. Now, you don't want to necessarily show off, again, necessarily. Not everybody likes a know-it-all, but to be honest, I'm sure everybody understands this, nothing really derails a sales pitch than an agent who's more interested in presenting themselves, really, rather than the subject matter. Now, there is a really fine line with that. You do want to understand and get to know the audience and make sure that they know you as a person. You really must be authoritative and confident when you begin your pitch and start discussing terms, but you want to avoid being cocky and overconfident. Those two areas will really throw you down a path that you don't really want to end up going down. One real surefire way to walk this fine line is to really keep the focus on the product. Understand that it's not about you necessarily, it's about them, and it's about the product that you're presenting to them at the time. So, like I already mentioned before, you really want to kind of go over what they already know about the subject. You can kind of test the waters by doing a lot of probing questions. Are they really interested? If not, you may even just need to create that interest and really kind of show what's in it for them. What are they expecting you to say? What's their mindset going into it? Possibly any prejudices, attitudes, beliefs. How well informed they are, and do they have any background knowledge at all? If you start throwing out jargon and technical terms out there, are they going to understand it? What are they really expecting from you? The more that you know about your specific, and I use this term freely per se, about your specific audience, the more power you're going to really have in your efforts and to make them relevant to what they're interested in. Really properly researching, or at least making an effort in that direction, really can pay off. It's a huge step in preparing in the whole preparation process for delivering your entire sales pitch. Obviously, as everybody knows, to be successful in sales takes a special, je ne sais quoi. Whether you have that special skill or not, and whether you're transacting it on technology, directly to them, over the phone. If you don't know and really understand your target audience, your likelihood of success is going to be really significantly diminished. Most people understand this importance of knowing and understanding the client or the audience. Who the audience is per se, it doesn't matter. But a big pitch to, like, say, an executive, or a presentation to your team, or a sales demonstration for one of your clients, you really need to know who is in that specific audience group so you can speak to their specific interests. You don't want to misjudge them. As far as the audience or the client are concerned, because you can kiss the sale goodbye at that point, really. Take this for example. You're sitting through a long presentation. I'm sure that everybody's been through them. One presentation, two, maybe three, four for the day, with a vendor that doesn't really consider the needs and the interests of who's in the room, or they spend much of the time pitching rather than demonstrating the strengths of the product. It is frustrating on so many levels to me. It really also adds a layer of complexity to the whole decision-making process in the end, because now, you don't have to necessarily sit through negative gut reaction of the presenter, but people are rather focusing solely on how the product does or does not meet their products or their project's objectives. And that's really what you want to continue to make your basis on. You know, the importance of asking questions before a sale is one of the hugest things in really understanding and really doing those probing questions to get to really drill down onto who you're speaking with. Again, it's not at all about pitching your product or service from the very beginning. It's really about getting and understanding them, asking clarifying questions, and then being as efficient as possible throughout the entire process. You know, as everybody knows, the best salespeople in the world, they don't sell. The product can sell themselves as long as you ask the questions needed and listen to what those responses are. You know, I've heard the common misconception time and time again, you know, that salespeople have the vocabulary, the looks, and the hunger for money alone. But you know, I've been in the business and the corporate structure of this industry for a lifetime, it seems. And you know, everything starts with sales. Throughout my entire journey, I've really learned to focus and become better at everything I do through understanding who I'm talking with. Really asking those qualifying questions is going to end up, in the end, narrowing your product offering and allowing you to focus on a specific target item. The product itself will sell itself in the end if you know really who you're speaking with. You know, a lot of people may not even be interested in what you're selling. That just means that you can hone in on, you know, specific other areas or other specific people who might fit that profile of what your ideal customer is. You know, if you waste time, energy, and money selling to the wrong person, they'll likely return the product or negatively talk about the business. At the end of the day, that's a huge loss for you. Be it in your career or your personal life, you're a salesperson when it gets down to it. You're making a pitch when you ask your friends to go out with you for a drink, for example, but try making that same pitch during a time when they're scheduled to go to work. You're almost always going to get a negative response, I guess, depending upon where you're at, possibly, but you never know. That's why you need to really ask about the plans for the day. I mean, you really can have the best product in the world, but if your client or your customer does not need your product, it doesn't matter what you have to say. All great salespeople succeed because they know the audience is in need of a specific product or service, and it's really easy to guide them based on those needs by asking those questions. You know, the idea of asking questions for the purpose of efficiency, it'll take you a long way if you really apply it across your business platform. It'll help you run successive marketing campaigns. It'll help you hire the right people. It'll even improve your bottom line and your financials in the end, which of course, this is what we all want. Find your target customer, narrow down the product offerings, and identify a common interest. And then you'll end up getting there more efficiently by asking those questions. You know, selling and showing a product is really about telling a story and appealing on an emotional level, not a physical product. A very, very famous quote, if you haven't heard it, and it's an amazing quote, I love it, is that people buy with emotion, then they use the facts to justify that purchase later with logic. That expression has always made intuitive sense to me. Rationally, though, it seemed really illogical. You know, even after doing a lot of research on this topic today, I personally have a much better understanding of why this expression was created and why it's created so many mixed feelings. You know, I discovered personally that people do not decide emotionally, that the decision to buy is made almost subconsciously. And these subconscious decisions are really based on a deeply empirical mental processing system that follows a logic all of its own. You know, getting into the psychology of it, it's an amazing topic. It's a really, really amazing thing to look into. You know, just trying to determine when to use facts and figures versus selling to an emotion. That's really where knowing your customer and their personality type comes into play. Is your customer a rational customer, or are they more an intuitive client? You know, our subconscious intuitive decision to buy, at that point, it's communicated to the conscious mind via an emotion. You know, your conscious mind is going to start searching for rational reasons, and that's really kind of how we complete that whole circle of events. You know, we justify those signals to buy with logical reasons. You know, and then wow, the illusion's complete that the conscious mind that we're identifying with is in control, so we can feel safe and secure. But you could sit back and say, so what? Who cares? 95% of our purchase decisions, and this is according to a Harvard Business Law School quote that, or actually rather a journal entry that I read, 95% of those purchase decisions take place unconsciously. But yet, when we seek to persuade someone, say it on a C-level of an executive or even a client face-to-face, we sell almost exclusively to the rational side. And you wonder at that point why a sales deal gets stuck in paralysis for analysis and ends really a lot of the times in zero decision. That same journal article, it concludes that we really need to sell to both sides. And really for that, it means that we must get better at selling to the intuitive side. And because intuitive decision making is really on a single level, really experiential, we can influence that intuitive side by making our offer and our sales pitch feel real with scenarios and real life customer scenarios. It's really no different than business schools using case studies to make their abstract theories tangible so that students can metabolize the information. It's also no different than what I have experienced personally selling really complex products to C-level executives because of the limitation of our working memory to remember more than I think it's 3 to 4 pieces of new information at a time. It's really easy to flood your client or your customer with too much information. But if you can turn that product or that specific item into a story, into a customer-centric story, then the customer can step into your idea and more or less take it out for a virtual test drive. It really enables the client to run your idea through their accumulated wisdom to see if it feels right to them, to see if it's really going to be something that they want on that emotional level. So, but with that said though, when should you sell with facts and figures, and when should we try and speak to the emotional subconscious instead? When do you talk to the intuitive side versus the rational side? That's really all comes down to those questions and those probing questions to really try and find and understand your client and really know who you're speaking with. I personally would argue too often that selling to the rational sides really leads to sales paralysis, especially for really complex sales products or services. But, still a lot of us really continue to market really exclusively to that rational side, which that result then ends that we spend way too much time chasing sales opportunities, then eventually are going to stall out. What we need to do is we need to improve that ability to sell to the intuitive side, to the emotional side. If you default to selling to the rational side, if we think of ourselves, we're going to identify with our conscious rational mind. We can't imagine that serious sales would be really based on emotion. I mean, who would really think that that would be logical? Because we view personally our emotional decisions as irrational and irresponsible. No, I don't want to make a decision based on emotion. But what if that intuitive side has a logic of its own? Something else that I found when researching this is that in recent years, a lot of psychologists and like behavioral economists have shown that our emotional decisions aren't really irrational nor irresponsible. In fact, what we're coming to understand now is that our unconscious decisions, they really follow a logic of their own. They're based on deeply, deeply empirical mental processing system that's really capable of effortlessly producing millions and millions of bits of data without getting overwhelmed. So our conscious mind, on the other hand, it has a strict bottleneck because it can only process 3 or 4 new pieces of information at a time. And that's where a lot of sales get stuck at, and they'll end up stalling out. So if you can't reliably use your own decision-making history as a guide, when do you really know if you should be selling based on logic or emotion? Here's a short rule of thumb, and this is something that I put into test many times. Sell to the rational side for simple sales. Sell to the intuitive side for complex sales. Really, that conclusion is backed up by a lot of different studies based on subjects selecting, anywhere from like the best used car from a selection of 4 cars, for example. It really comes down to the fact that if you want to influence how a customer feels about your product, really provide an experience that creates that desired emotion. One of the best ways for a customer to experience your complex product is by sharing a vivid customer story. It can be someone else, it can be your own personal story. You know, and as we went over, research has really shown that stories can activate the region of the brain that processes sights, sounds, tastes, movement. You know, contrast this approach to, for example, a salesperson delivering a data dump in the form of an 85-slide PowerPoint presentation. I'd rather listen to the story. I'm going to end up more than likely buying from that because I'm going to make a connection based on that level. Rather than really thinking of, you know, the emotional mind as irrational, think of it this way. An emotion is really just simply the way that the unconscious communicates its decision to the conscious mind. So, if there are any questions on anything from today, or if there's something you want me to cover possibly next Monday or weeks going forward, please, please, please don't be shy and reach out to me on email at the address below. Again, it's amazing to be here with the team. I am fully looking forward to my journey moving forward here and getting to know everyone as well. I'm sure that we're going to have many Mondays together, so don't judge me too harshly this Monday. You know, it's my first time, and if it was your first time, I welcome you as well, and thank you very much for being here today, everybody. Have a great, great Monday. I'm going to close with this quote for the day, which really kind of sums up today's lesson on understanding the audience and then kind of adjusting, you know, to their personality type. People do not buy goods and services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. You know, that quote by Seth Godin describes how we make the most of our purchase decisions. We're not only led by rationality alone when deciding about the purchase of a product, but how do emotional versus rational purchases differ from each other? And how does that influencer marketing just trigger the consumer's buying decision? And that's really what we're looking at. Purchase decisions are really impacted by rational as well as emotional. Whether that decision is based on emotional or rational, it's really, really highly individual and depends on the person making the decision. So remember, start the week fresh. Give it your best this week, regardless of any lingering yesterday thoughts or last week thoughts or last month thoughts. Today's a new day, everybody. You can create a new canvas each day. Happy Monday, everybody. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.